Hello and welcome to the Jordan and Matt show. It's been a long off season, but we're back covering some high school football. And it's there've been some changes in the company, so both of us have some bigger coverage range. It's going to be an adjusting period, but hey, at the end of the day, we get to watch more football. So how much can we really complain about it? But I'm Jordan.
And I'm at.
Matt, how you doing? How is the off season treating you?
Well, as you know, it's been rough, but with these changes, but feel like I got a system down and it's working okay for me. And the coaches have been great to work with. No complaints yet, so I hope it continues that way.
Definitely, and I'm in the same boat. Right when I got my head above water, I'm like, okay, I can handle this. I had a baby, so now 5 days into that, and yeah, we're getting a system down with that, and getting a system down with work. But hey, it's good to be back, and it's good to be covering football again. I know we've always joked that being a sports writer in the summertime might be the hardest job known to mankind.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot going on. But hey, it's good to be back. Matt, I know Friday night you were at a pretty fun game, one of the bigger games in the region. Why don't you talk about that game a little bit? Where were you and what'd you see?
Yeah, I was at Vista Del Lago. They faced Manteca for the first game of the season for the second year in a row. Last year they got pummeled. This year they had plans to win. They played a much tougher game, much better game, but they came up 7 points shy, losing 42-35 to Manteca, the D2 section champ last year, and the three-time defending champions. Not all D2. I think one or two of those is D3. But anyway, they've won three in a row. And it really came down to this. Vista had Matt Long and Manteca had Bryson Smith. I think that's his last name, Bryson Smith. Yeah, and they both scored four touchdowns, but Matt Long scored all four of his in the first half, and he caught two passes in the second half. Only caught one pass in the second half. So Manteca found a way to slow him, but he found a way to stop him. Vincent never found a way to stop Bryson Smith, who rushed for 342 yards on 36 carries. So he almost averaged 10 yards a carry. So that's, you know, and it's not odd that happened because I just think back to Folsom over the years. Before they're going to be able to beat these good teams, they have to stop the run. They have to stop whether it's the De La Salvere or whatever. I mean, you have to be able to stop a team that's a one-dimensional team like Manteca. They don't throw the ball. So yeah, if you stop the run, you have a chance to win the game. So until teams learn how to do that, and as their learning process for Folsom, and they finally, I don't want to say stop, but they slow it. They stop it enough to win. So anyway, I mean, that was the difference in the game. Bryson Smith scored with a 41-yard run with, I think, less than a minute, 50 seconds to go, or maybe just over a minute to go. And Vista had one shot to go down the field and go for two and win it, and they were intercepted. So their defense played. I mean, they only lost. I mean, the defense gave it a shot. I mean, they had the ball. Their offense had the ball last, and they weren't able to go down the field. So while their defense gave up 342 yards, they gave their offense a shot to move down the field and win the game at the end. So that was the difference in that game. Vista led 21-7 early because they got an interception by Camden King. That separated them, but then Manteca outscored them 21-7 in the second quarter to tie the game at 28. So anyway, that was that. It was Vista. After the game, Kyle Landis, Vista's coach, was like, we're not. I asked him. I said, last year, I know they wanted to win the game. They didn't, but they came close. And I asked him, I didn't want to say moral victory, but I said it. And he's like, we're tired of talking about moral victories here at Vista. We want to, we need to play better. We need to do better. And that was it. So Vista lost, but they only lost by 7. They're still, it was only game one. They're disappointed, but they'll be back.
Definitely. And, I know that there were a ton of other games in the area we were talking earlier in the week. I said we have a good problem to have is we had more good games than we had reporting staff. So, we got to track down a few. But what were some of the other big games in your area that you got a chance to kind of track down and talk about that?
Yeah, well, for starters, two Roseville teams went at it, Roseville and Oakmont. Roseville won this one 49-14. And Roseville coach Adam Ranking was happy with his performance. He's been happy with their scrimmages. He's been happy with this. I mean, things are going well right now for Roseville. He said they could have scored more points, but they kind of took the foot off the gas pedal there. But he was happy with how their offense performed. I mean, 49 points, you can't be too upset. Clark Nielsen threw a touchdown pass to Kenny McClure and also ran one in. And Joel Bradley also caught a touchdown pass from Mason Cisnera. So both quarterbacks who they're going to be playing this year both threw touchdown passes. And Ethan Edson ran the ball well. He scored 2 touchdowns. And Joel Bradley also used their speed burner on the outside. He caught a touchdown pass and also returned a punt 50 yards for a score just before halftime. And the only score in the second half was by Andre Sanchez on a 9-yard run. So, only score for Roseville. Well, I guess it was, yeah. Oakmont scored both theirs in the second quarter, I think. But touchdown runs by Bo Ogles, their quarterback. But Roseville was happy with how they played, but Oakmont was too, and it's interesting. I wasn't at this game; I was just going by what the coaches told me, and Oakmont said we gave up 2 touchdowns in the second quarter that had our secondary not made mistakes. I mean, this could have been a 21-14 game and a half. So, and he said he felt that his team played Rosemont a lot better this year than they did last year. So, and this is a team that lost 4 offensive linemen a week ago to Graves. So, their offensive line had to, they had to piece together the offensive line in 6 days to get ready to play their first game, and they still rushed for over 200 yards. So, I thought that was definitely a positive for Oakmont. They were able to move the ball, which they weren't during their scrimmage just a week earlier. So, a lot of optimism there at Oakmont, and so. Yeah, they lost the game, but they felt they could have been a lot closer. So, they're happy with that. And then Folsom High opened up with Monterey Trail. They've opened up with them the last couple of years, and they've beat them the last couple of years, and they really hammered them this year, 35-0 up through the first. It was 35-0 before halftime, and that's what the final score was. But Folsom got off to a good start. They got the ball first. 5 plays about they scored a touchdown run by Ryder Lyons, their sophomore quarterback, and then they got a blocked punt, and then the punt was returned for a touchdown, blocked punt by R.J. Witten, and then was returned by Jaron Hodson 9 yards or so for a touchdown. And what Paul Daugherty liked about that was offense right off the bat goes down the score. Defense right off the bat holds them 3-and-out punt. Special teams right off the bat block punt touchdown. So all three phases they started off well, and it was 14-0 3 minutes into the game, and that's what you have to do against these good running teams. You have to get out in front of them because you get out in front, they can't run the ball anymore. They have to find other ways to score. So they're not good at it, but. So Folsom won that game 35-0. Obviously, they took the foot off the gas there too. I think Darty told me that Monterey Trail had the ball the entire third quarter, a 12-minute drive in the third quarter. So that was something else. So that was the 3 games. I'll stop there and let you talk about your game, Jordan.
All right. Well, I'll start with the game I was supposed to be at. I was planning to be at Placer and Casa Roble for round 3 of that one that – I think everyone thought was going to be almost like a boxing match. Hey, the third matchup of it, 2021, Casa wins 40-33. In 2022, Placer wins 37-35. Both teams return most of their skill position players. So, you'd expect a lot of points, which is why I think everyone was shocked to see a 21-7 final score. Casa Roble won this one. Placer was... So, I mean, disclosure, baby was born on Friday, so obviously I couldn't make it to the game. She likes, coming in with dramatic entrances when high school football season starts. But, from talking to the coach and just, reading about the game, Placer really shot itself in the foot a few times. So they went and they kicked it to Casa Roble, start the game. Casa Roble takes about 7 or 8 minutes off the clock and just pounds the ball at Placer, gets up 7-0. Then Placer's first play from scrimmage, quarterback Josh Craycraft throws a pick. Placer or Casa is starting in plus territory. Before they know it, it's 14-0, and Placer, I think, ran 4 offensive plays in the whole first quarter. So not the way you want to start your game. Placer has 5 brand new offensive linemen. They were going up against a Casa defensive front that had 9 returning starters. So, you know, this deck is kind of stacked against Placer. They did settle in after that 14-0 hole. Casa did end up scoring again later in the game and making it 21-0. Placer punched one in late, but I think the Hillmen had 5 turnovers in the game. 3 of them were fumbles from Craycraft, 2 of them on a snap exchange, which, you know, is something that can happen when you're working with a new center. And especially Coach Joey Montoya for the Hillmen said that they've been working with a few different guys at center this summer to see who kind of fits that spot. So, you know, it's one of those things where when you don't have a ton of reps with your center and everyone is different, that's going to change some things a little bit. So I do think there were a few kinks to work out, but you know, if you look at like the total stats for the game, the final score doesn't tell the story. Placer had a few tries in the red zone where they couldn't quite punch it in, but they had 15 first downs to Casa's 16. Both teams had 6 penalties. The yardage, Casa outgained Placer 330 to 317. You know, the Hillmen had 267 rushing yards behind 5 new offensive line starters. And what I think is most impressive is Placer, with all those mistakes, I mean, Casa made their own mistakes as well, but they held Casa Roble, who has 2 of the best outside weapons in the area in Cole Owens and Elijah Huddle. They held them to 21 points. So I think if you're Placer, you lose that game, but I feel like you're almost walking away from that going, okay, we played about as horribly as we could have played in that first quarter. And, you know, came out as rough as the season could have started. And we held one of the best teams in this area to 21 points, a team that I think is going to be a top 10 team in the Sacramento area. So, you know, I know you said moral victories they don't really count. They're still count as losses, but if you're Placer, I do think you don't have a bad feeling in your stomach walking away from that game because you definitely had your opportunities to win it. And I wouldn't be shocked to see a very different Placer team coming out this Friday against Roseville, but we'll get into that later. One of the other games I wanted to talk about, another big game in the area, was Del Oro and Inderkum. This one was, I mean, an absolute barn burner, just lit up the scoreboard. Inderkum actually had a 14-7 lead over the Golden Eagles coming out of the first quarter, and then Dio scored 21 straight points to all of a sudden jump out to a 28-14 lead. Inderkum scored once before the half. But, you know, Del Oro kind of just the most telling play of the game, it sounds like, came in the first quarter when the Golden Eagles pretty much, you know, they were going to have a turnover. They were going to punt the ball away, and then a late penalty comes and kind of lets the Golden Eagles just march down the field and, you know, jump out. But they pretty much went blow for blow in this one. Caden Pinnock had a fantastic game for Del Oro. He had 5 touchdowns for the Golden Eagles. He threw 4 of them, ran for a 2-point conversion. He had 248 yards through the air, 303 total yards. I even saw an Inderkum coach on Twitter said something like, Pinnock is the best quarterback we've ever seen on the field. So, you know, an impressive one. Tommy Poe had 3 touchdown receptions. He had 4 passes for 89 yards, so he was pretty efficient in what he did. Robert Garcia had a big touchdown for Dio. He had the one that kind of sealed the deal for the Eagles. And, you know, that's a game that I don't think I expected it to be as high scoring. But, you know, for Del Oro, going out on the road, winning at Inderkum, I mean, that's a tough opening night game. I don't care what people say. So, you know, good win for DO there. And, yeah, that was a solid performance. And then I guess I'll go third game for you. I want to give some love to Bear River. Bear River ended up beating Kennedy 52-0 on the road. They took a 2-0 lead 4 plays into the game when Blake Simney and Luke Jeffers combined to sack Kennedy's quarterback for a safety. Turns out those would be the only 2 points they needed, but that was not the only 2 points they scored. Simning had a good game too. Bear River just ran the ball really well. They had 5 rushing touchdowns in the game. Simning had 105 yards in a score. Caden Cavolt ran for 74 yards, and he had a touchdown run as well. Elijah Hickman, Ben Barley, and Ethan Smith each had touchdowns. But, Bear River coach Tanner Matthias credited his offensive line for the performance, said, they just kept knocking Kennedy's guys back, and, they battled adversity well. And a fun story actually about this, I guess Bear River's varsity bus broke down on the way to the game. Halfway there. So the JV bus, after dropping the JV team off, had to come get the varsity players and bring them in. Thankfully, the JV game actually ran a little bit long, so they still got a proper warm-up time, but I don't think they really needed it. They won 52-0. So big win for Bear River, a school that is coming off back-to-back 3-win seasons and is looking to get back into the postseason, a team that used to really be a regular in the playoffs and a section title contender every year. So, shout out to Bear River for that. That was a big win there. Matt, I'll kind of throw it over to you for some of your other games. Where else did you see?
Yeah, well, Valley Christian played Saturday, opened up at home, which is they play their home games at Highlands High School against Mira Loma, and they suffered a 46-34 loss. Now, I don't know much about Mira Loma, but Valley Christian is a 22-man roster. So, I mean, that's kind of small. They had two key players, 2 starting outside linebackers out. So, I mean, you take 22, you're down to 20 there. You 2 of your better players, 2 starters, and who both also play on other, both sides of the ball. Almost everyone plays on both sides of the ball when you have a 22-man roster. So, I mean, that really hurts that hurts the team, and it hurt Valley Christian. They scored first. They're up 6-0, but then Mira Loma was up 16-6 at halftime, and then they opened up an even bigger lead in the third quarter until Valley Christian made a comeback. Valley Christian outscored them 3 touchdowns to 2 in the fourth quarter, and had things rolling, but just ran out of time in the end. So Coach Doug Williams expects both linebackers back this week, so they're not long-term injuries or anything. So he's hoping to turn this keep this to a 1-game losing streak, and they play Millennium on Friday. Next game, Granite Bay and Elk Grove was a good one, as expected. Granite Bay won this one 27-13, and it was another good start that helped Granite Bay. They went down and scored at first 7-0 on a run by Carter Jackson. Elk Grove, Coach Joe Catalco said, Elk Grove went through us like a hot knife through butter, and he thought, oh man, they missed the extra point. It was 7-6, but he thought, man, this is going to be a back and forth game. It's going to be a battle. But it was 27. It was only a 14-point game, but Catalco said his defense after that first drive really, really, improved as the game progressed, and that's good to see for a young team, such a young team. And I mean, Elk Grove only scored one of their touchdowns, so it was a great effort by the Granite Bay defense. Carter Jackson scored 2 touchdowns in the game, one in the first quarter, one second quarter, rushed for 100 yards. Isaiah Annie rushed for 88 yards. So Granite Bay had the running game going, and it's a good thing. Lucas, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, Gruia. He quarterback for Granite Bay. He was replacing an injured Nick Harris, and he played well. I mean, he was 8 out of 11 with a touchdown pass to Carson Perry Smith. So he did a good job. And the Granite Bay offensive line, that's the big question mark. They have 5 new starters there, and again, I'm going to ask Catalco every week how's the offensive line played. And again, he said this week they played great. So they continue to improve. So he was happy with that game. And let's go one more here. Wood Creek, big winners over Franklin, 44-7. Austin Catapotas, 5 out of 10. He completed some long passes, 5 out of 5 completions for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. Joey Nielsen caught one, and Gio, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Accuse, sorry, Gio caught another one. But they had 4 rushing touchdowns by Brody Croup. Catapotas had one himself. Akeem Anderson and James Williams all had touchdowns. And offensively, there's only three critiques that Brad Hunkins had about his team is they had one turnover, one fumble. I mean, that happens. And then two fourth down conversions that they did not convert, and that was the bigger issue. Because you need those fourth down conversions in close games, so that's what they're going to be focusing on, I guess, this week. So anyway, that's my game. You got any more there, Jordan?
Yeah, I got two more or three more for you. My apologies. This one, I actually got to watch a little bit of on my laptop over the weekend. Shout out to my good friend Matthew Bassett with ABC Jam Productions for giving me his login for the game that he broadcasted. That's Rockland and Turlock. Rockland looked very impressive in this one against Turlock. Turlock, is a team that has pulled some upsets and has given some big names out here some trouble in the postseason over the years. So a good matchup for Rockland, a good test to start the season. Sophomore quarterback Reeve Sloan looked very good in his varsity debut. 12 for 14, 157 yards and touchdown. So he didn't have to throw the ball a ton, but hey, when he did, he was very efficient at it. Rockland's running game did a great job just controlling the tempo. Derek Keeley and Tyler Ward led the way. 59 yards for Keeley, 57 yards for Ward. Keeley also had 2 touchdowns for the Thunder. Rafi Marino had a touchdown as well, but Rockland ran for 149 yards on 35 carries. The story of this game, though, was really Rockland's defense. They were a problem for Turlock in the backfield. From what I watched, I don't think Turlock crossed midfield in the entire second half. So, they got very close in the second half, but they did not get it. I think they had I want to say it was something like 43 rushing yards and 32 of them came on one run. So that's not ideal if you want to be winning high school football games. Rockland had 6 tackles for loss in the game, 3 sacks. Cohen Bell had a good game. So, as well as I believe it's Sean Patton. Let me double check the name on that so I don't Spencer Patton, my apologies. Spencer Patton, he had a sack as well for the Thunder. Marino had a interception for the Thunder as well. So, Rockland just looked really good in this one, really sharp. They're going cross state lines this weekend to play McQueen up in Reno. I imagine that's going to be a pretty handy win for them, but a big statement for Rockland to start the game. That offensive line is going to be tough, and I think that win might have opened some eyes with the margin of victory. Keeping it in the Rockland area, Whitney had a big win over Antelope, and I actually thought Antelope was going to win this one, and it looked like they were going to. They jumped out 14-3. Whitney had a pretty slow first quarter, and then Whitney decided to just rattle off 35 unanswered points to win 38-14. So, shows what we know. But I talked to Whitney coach Zach McNally, and he said, we got off to a slow start and had some drives that had some momentum, but then they stalled because of penalties, which, is fairly common in opening week. But they settled down in the second quarter and created a few turnovers that led to some explosive plays. There were several new faces on the offense for Whitney, but they made their presence known. One of them being junior quarterback Logan Sindelar, who earned the starting nod from McNally. He was a solid JV quarterback. I think he got pulled up a little bit later in the year and, got to practice a little bit, but he threw for 3 touchdowns and 205 yards on a 10 for 12 night. So pretty solid when you do that. He showed a lot of poise, and McNally said he really distributed the ball well to his playmakers. One of those being senior running back Lorenzo Young, who complemented the aerial attack with a strong performance on the ground. He had 139 yards and 2 touchdowns on 23 carries. He was also the leading receiver, and he had 3 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown. But McNally said the highlight of the night for him was the defense pitching a shutout in the second half to allow Whitney to put the game away. And he felt like, that was really where the Wildcats made their statement in this. They have a really fun matchup against Wood Creek on Friday night. I think we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams there. But, Whitney is one of those that they're the only SFL team to miss the playoffs last year. And I think they came out a little bit pissed off that some people maybe are not thinking they're going to be a playoff team once again. So they have something to prove this year. And I would say don't sleep on the Wildcats. I know it's, week 1 or week 0, and you can't have too many knee-jerk reactions, but that is a team that can win a decent amount of games. It's just how much can they win when we get into league play, and will they win enough to make a playoff game? Last one I want to go through is 12 Bridges. Few teams have had the hype 12 Bridges have had coming into the season, but when you return all 22 starters from last year, you deserve that hype. And they wasted no time getting out to a winning start in the year. They beat Nevada Union 41-20 on Friday night on the road. NU actually struck first on their first drive in the first quarter. And 12 Bridges had, I think, like 2 or 3 drives kind of stall where, turnover on downs or punts or stuff like that. And it was kind of like, okay, hold on, maybe we need to pump the brakes on 12 Bridges a little bit. And then Nathan Crawford reminded us why everyone thinks 12 Bridges is as good as they are. He knotted things up late in the first with a 36-yard touchdown run, the first of 6 touchdowns on the night from him. He had 5 in the first half. And 12 Bridges outscored the Miners 28-6 in the second quarter to take a 35-13 lead. All 5 of those touchdowns came from Crawford. In the first half, he was the star of the show. He had 22 carries, 236 yards. He carried a majority of the load for the Rhinos, and 11 different ball carriers had at least 1 carry for the Rhinos. They racked up 343 yards. One of the bigger plays of the day, though, actually came on the defensive side. 12 Bridges coach Chris Bean said that he thinks the biggest play came from Ryan Wanger, who had a big interception for the team. Or they had an onside kick. They went down, they scored, took the lead, and then Wanger had an interception that put the Rhinos in scoring position. He said from there, that just opened the floodgates, and it looked like NU might have just been defeated from that moment. So, a big one for 12 Bridges, and then they have a fun matchup coming up that we'll preview in a minute. But, yeah, that's going to, do it for my games. Matt, do you have any more?
Yeah, 2 more. Oak Ridge opened at home against Spanish Springs and won that one easily 54-14. Spanish Springs is from Nevada. Oak Ridge, it seems when they are playing well, they have 10 guys touch the ball, and that's the same case here tonight, or in this game. Quarterback, let's say they had 6 guys who ran the ball and 7 guys who caught the ball. So, I mean, that's in case Casey Taylor says, it's simple, other teams don't know who to stop. If they can't focus on who to stop, you just spread the ball around. So that's why he likes to do that. But anyway, Joaquin Grace Mercado was the quarterback. He threw a touchdown pass to Adam Kwan. That was the only touchdown pass to the air. Everything else came on the ground for the Trojans. Eric Orme Jr. had 3 touchdown rushes, 13 carries, 89 yards. And Jason Womack, his first varsity debut as a junior, carried the ball 6 times for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had a great night. And Quan had 8 carries for 61 yards in the score. So that was that game. And then the final game I have to talk about is West Park went down to Laguna Creek and beat Laguna Creek 35-20. Jackson Hanan, who was a backup quarterback, is 7 of 12 for 3 touchdowns, 2 to Mason Johnson and 1 to Ryan Sisson. And they didn't. Weston Wade had 2 touchdown runs for West Park, although Coach Jason Tanner said they did not run the ball as well as they would have liked. But big story in this one was defender cornerback Hareel Greer, who Laguna Creek receiver Halim Fali. I don't know him, but Elk Grove, the paper in Elk Grove said he's one of the top receivers in Elk Grove, if not the area. And Hareel Greer for West Park held him to 0 catches. So Tanner wanted me to point him out, so I'm doing it. Good job to you, Mr. Greer. And that was a big reason why they won that game 35-20. That is my wrap up.
All right, I like it. And a couple before we get into where we're going to be on Friday, a couple other shout outs for some sports I wanted to give. I checked out a foundation game on Monday. First event I got to cover in person since the baby came, and made it through the whole time. And that was Placer and Del Oro girls volleyball, a good rivalry there. Despite a late push by the Hillman, Dio hung on to win 3-1. It was actually the second meeting in 2 days between the two because they met at the Bulldog Bash in Folsom on Sunday, with Dio winning that one. But Del Oro won the first 2 sets fairly handily, and then third set, Placer ends up taking it. And then set number 4, Del Oro actually led 20-7. And, it looks like, okay, they're running away. They kind of slammed the door on Placer. And Placer ended up coming back. And, it was very, very quiet on Del Oro's side of the gym all of a sudden. But Del Oro ended up hanging on to win 25-20. When you jump out to a lead that big, you have to just pretty much completely fumble the bag to blow that set. But it definitely Placer did a good job, and it wasn't necessarily that Del Oro was playing poor. Placer, I think, just turned it on and said we want to push a fifth set, and they came close to doing it. But it's one of those. It's a foundation game, so you kind of take those results with a grain of salt. But there are bragging rights, and in Placer's case, especially, their coach Carly Seifert Smith said, even though we lost, I learned a lot about this team tonight. We played a much bigger school that's in the SFL, which is, as much as we love the SFL for football, it's right up there for pretty much every sport. I mean, volleyball as well. It's, you're probably some of the best if you're playing in that league. And, she said that I learned a lot about these girls and they don't quit. And, we have some things to work on, but she's like, I'm excited. And these girls prove that they have what it takes to be a winning program if you can go and stand toe to toe with DO 2 days in a row. So I think there's still a lot of excitement for Placer, and hey, for DO, you get the win going in to start the season. So I think it was one of those rare occasions where both sides kind of left the gym happy. And another shout out I wanted to give is to Rockland girls flag football. They were the first game in Sac Joaquin section history and the first win in Sac Joaquin section history. They beat Colfax 6-0 on Friday up in Colfax. So shout out to Rockland for that, and to Coach Ryan Spears for also, according to Sacramento MaxPreps, being the first team to get flag football stats entered in MaxPreps. So shout out to you, Rockland. You made our day a little bit easier with that. Matt, how about you? Do you have any other sports you got to check out?
I wanted to ask you, did the baby go with you to the volleyball game?
The baby did not, but
Okay.
soon I think I'm going to look like Alan from The Hangover and just have the baby kind of strapped to my chest on the sidelines.
Okay. Well, I haven't gotten to a game yet because my teams haven't played a game yet, but I have checked out Vista at a flag football scrimmage. I've checked out Folsom at a flag football scrimmage. So I mean, I don't even know what to say about them at this point, but I've seen them play. And I'll just hold off comment until I see the real game. But anyway, I've seen some flag football. And Monday, yes, I went to a foundation game. Folsom played Laguna Creek, won easily, but and Folsom played everybody. But they're really Coach Devin Elmore is really high on this team. He said last year they were the 6th seed and got eliminated in the second round. And he said, he's expecting a top 4 seed this year. And he wants to battle for a section championship. And I can't tell you the last time Folsom was in position to battle for a section championship in girls volleyball. So even though there's been some coaches turnover there the last, this is his second year, I think. And then they had a coach for 1 year, and then they had a coach that was there for a while. So, I mean, even though they had this coaching turnover, the program was finally to the point where, years ago they had one club player. Now, like, all the players play club. So, and that makes a difference. So, anyway, this team is going to be good. They play in the SFL. I mean, and, who knows where they can finish? They could win it. They could finish in 4th, I think. But if they want a top 4 seed, they're probably going to have to finish at least 3rd, maybe 2nd, probably 2nd, because Oak Ridge and Rockland were the 2 of the top 4 seeds last year. So anyway, it's going to be a tough one to go, but he's high on the team. Hattie Conagazer is their middle blocker, 6'2" senior. She's good. They have a 6'3" freshman who did not play Monday because she's injured, but I think she also plays basketball and she can dunk a tennis ball. So he said she's the best athlete that he's ever seen. So that he's ever coached. So if she gets healthy, if she's that good, it could be tough. So anyway, that's the other sports I have.
All right, and we'll wrap this up with talking about where we're going to be this week. I think both of us are hitting 2 games this week, correct?
Nope.
Oh no! Oh, never mind. I was thinking of a different week, but so I know. So I guess I'll start. I've got 2 this week. One of them is, I guess, not guaranteed, but I'm going to try to make it out there. And it's tomorrow night. It's at San Juan High School between Forest Hill and Mesa Verde. Forest Hill coming off a tough loss to Amador. It's 46-20. A team that this senior class, their coach. I mean, if you listen to what the senior class has gone through as freshmen, they went through COVID. As sophomores, they went 8-2 and missed the playoffs despite being second in their league, and then the team that finished third behind them and lost to them made the playoffs over them.
What?
Yeah, whole big thing. Don't even get me started there. And then last year they had to deal with the mosquito fire, and then the senior class this year before the season started, former member of the team passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. So, I mean, this senior class has just been through hell at Forest Hill, and these seniors really just want to have a normal football season, something to prove. So I want to go check these kids out and see what they have to do. Mesa Verde was a team that beat them last year, a program that's kind of been on the downside for the last few years, but is starting to turn things around. I think it should be a good game. It's played at San Juan because Mesa Verde's new turf is not yet finished. So, it should be an interesting one. But then Friday night, I'll be at Placer and Roseville, Roseville High School. This one was an awesome game the year before. Placer won by scoring a go-ahead touchdown with 10 seconds to go. I think the big question is Placer had a rough first game, and they're going to be hungry and eager to turn it around. Then Roseville, you played Oakmont, you had a decent first game, but now what's going to happen when you're coming up against an opponent that's evenly matched, or in my opinion, maybe even slightly better than you? How are you going to respond to that? I don't think Oakmont had the ability to punch Placer or punch Roseville in the mouth the way that Placer does. I think it's going to be an interesting game, and I think Placer is going to come out a lot more aggressive and hungry because I don't think they're thrilled with how that opening night went. I'm really excited for it. I want to say I picked Placer to win it, but I think it's going to be a good game, and it's always a good time when those two schools meet up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know Adam Ranking has got a lot of respect for Joey Montoya and what Placer does, and he said, defensively, we're going to have to play our best game because he knows what's coming. So yeah, that should be a good one. Hey, I wanted to ask you, are we doing athlete of the week or?
I mean, I've given my athlete of the week a shout out already.
Okay.
I don't have
Okay.
I'm starting it up I was planning to start mine up in the papers at least next week.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, if we want to do one, I'd give my nod to Crawford. Anytime you have 200 plus yards and 6 touchdowns, I think you deserve athlete of the week.
Well, that's fine. I know last year we talked about it, but we didn't. I know you said before the show, we should mention as we go. But anyway, Matt Long, Vincent Lago, receivers, my athlete of the week. 6 catches, 228 yards, 4 touchdowns. His first 4 touches went for touchdowns for 210 yards. And it was incredible. I mean, after the 4th touchdown, I said to myself, I looked over at Manteca's sideline and I was like, you guys going to put somebody on him because 2 of those touchdowns he was uncovered. So I don't. But finally, I mean, they figured it out. Thankfully for them, but it was really fun to watch. My team's next week, Whitney, Wood Creek. We already talked about that one. That's going to be a good one. Folsom plays at Sarah. That's a rematch from last year. Folsom's only lost during the regular season. 17-12 was also their worst performance of the season. I'm looking for Folsom to rebound and win that one. That's going to be a good one. Roseville, Placer. Let's talk about that. Vista goes on the road to Ponderosa. I think they'll rebound nicely against them. Told you Valley Christian plays at Millennium. Granite Bay goes down to play Manteca now. So this is a rematch of last year's D2 section title game that Manteca won 51-48. So this could be a good game. And I think I picked Granite Bay to win this one. But anyway.
I did too. I'm with
Oak Ridge.
I did too. I picked Granite Bay. I'm with you.
Oak Ridge plays D3 state champs Grant at home, renewing that rivalry that only missed last year, 2022. Yeah, they played in 2021, so they didn't miss a year. But I look for Oak Ridge to win it. And anyway, the game that I will be at Westmark against Casa Roble, and I know Jason Tenner's basically said we're going to need to play our best game. If Laguna Creek, they had all their guys back, and we had to play well to beat them. Well, then we didn't play well to not get embarrassed against Casa Roble. So. This will be a good game, and I'm anxious to see it. Now, are we going to talk about predictions on the air or
no? I'm all for talking predictions. And I know we have to have a full disclaimer that we did both get beat by our boss. He went 10-0 on predictions. Shout out to you, Bill, whereas I went 9-1. You went 7-3. Now, to be fair, Bill was the last one in the story when he put his predictions in. So, is there collusion? Did he change our pick so that he won? I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying there's questions. But yeah, we can rattle off a few. I know Granite Bay Manteca. I think we both said Granite Bay wins. Folsom and Sarah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I just have a feeling Folsom's going to win. Sarah is Sarah. They're great. I mean, I could be wrong, but I like to use, a one homer pick a week, and I like to use at least one upset pick. Well, this is my homer pick, so I'm going Folsom.
You know what? I like it. And Folsom is a team that, for some reason, they always seem to get revenge on teams. So they always go 1-1 against teams in a season. So it just depends on what happens. I like Folsom in this one, though. This is a game that could potentially determine the NorCal Open bid, depending how the season goes. Lincoln and Rio Linda, I think Lincoln wins a close one, but both teams had a rough first week. I think the Zebras bounce back. And then Grant Oak Ridge, I know we both had our picks in that. You said, what was it? You believe the Trojans are going to have a pretty decent win?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, both of us have Oak Ridge in that. And then let's see, a couple other ones since we talked about some games. Whitney and Wood Creek, how do you see that shaking out?
Well, I like Wood Creek. I mean, they think things are going well for them right now. They haven't had really any hiccups, and I told you the other day, hey, they can go 10-0. So I'm on Wood Creek.
All right, I like it. Casa Roble West Park. I know you kind of talked about it a little bit, but you said, what do you think? Is this your?
What did I predict? What did I say there? Do you have it?
You said it was your upset of the week. So
did I pick a score?
You said 35-28 West Park, which is funny because I wanted to pick that, and then I saw you picked it, so I had to give Casa Roble 31.
All right. I don't know. When I'm thinking the score is like 35-28, just sounds like such a respectable, nice score. Like both teams scored a lot of points, and
Yeah.
I found myself writing that score down a lot when I gotta change it up. I gotta change it up.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
I
know Casserole will beat Placer, and I know they're really good. But hey, I'm going with my home team, so let's go West Park.
And then last one, does Oakmont bounce back at Foothill? What do you think?
I think they will.
I picked that too. I think I said 28-7 Oakmont there. So that's gonna, just about do it for what we've got for the Jordan and Matt show. Matt, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we're glad to be back and excited for another season of high school football. Be sure to tune in to the Jordan and Matt show every single week. And look out for the stories on Gold Mountain, California News. We will see you next time.